Steve Ladner.
BBC Radio Kent.
First up, Kent schools should stay open longer into the evenings and at weekends to keep our kids warm this winter. That's a proposal from Thanet County Councillor Ms Constantine. It comes as families across the county begin to feel the pinch as that cost of living increases starts to bite. Karen's with us now. Morning, Karen. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Nice to have you with us. First up, explain your proposal and the thinking behind it.
Okay, so my proposal is actually a set of questions that I penned around about the 10th of August to Kent County Council leader Roger Gough to say how concerned I am as a Ramsgate County Councillor, given the rates of child poverty that we've got here at 39%, you'll know that. And given the pension poverty, etc., and given the fact that we're going to have this skyrocketing fuel cost, I wrote to him with a list of questions saying, how are we as a county council going to deal with this? For instance, are we going to get more household support grants? Are Kent County Council and their officers lobbying for that? At the moment, I don't know. I've been told that we'll start to discuss this on the 15th of September. Now, my point is, 15th of September is leaving it rather late, and I have got families in crisis and under pressure here, as well as the elderly, and I don't know how we're going to look after everybody. That's my area of concern.
The proposal, the idea about opening schools actually has there's a lot of sense with that, isn't it? Because there's a school close to most communities. It's a honking great building, and most of the time, well, my little boy's school's tiny, but trust me to blow my own argument out of the water straight away. But they got facilities and things like that, and I suppose it does make sense to kind of use them almost in a community centre, community hub sort of way.
Possibly, but I think when I wrote this letter, I had.
Oh, hello. Hello. No.
I haven't. Sorry about that.
There you are. You went under a bridge there, Karen.
Strange. When I wrote this, when I made these suggestions, and one of my other suggestions was how can we better deploy the community wardens for the elderly? Can we talk to schools about relaxing the school uniform policy? So perhaps supermarket school uniform would do rather than the more expensive, which is a huge issue for people. It was all about how do we protect people, how do we take the pressure off those household budgets. And if that means schools could open, or libraries, or other social spaces, and that children and teenagers could go there to, say, do homework and just to chill out, if home isn't warm, then that's a good thing. I mean, the thing is, many schools and colleges go the extra mile already. They're already doing, and they have been for a long time in South Thanet, breakfast clubs in the morning, coat banks, helping parents to wash clothes, etc. This crisis has been going on for quite a long time in my division of Ramsgate. It's now sort of spreading out across the rest of Kent. But when you consider that what we're looking at is these eye-watering rates for fuel, a lot of people are going to be plunged into poverty, and a lot of people are going to be sat at home cold. And I think the county council needs to do whatever it can to avoid that, to avoid the possibility of death, to be quite honest, to avoid the possibility of people becoming homeless. And really importantly, I think coming out of the pandemic, we really need to do everything we can do to continue to support our kids so that they can settle back to kind of a normality and make friends and do the sports and the outdoor, the activities that they got stopped from doing during the pandemic. We want them to catch up in the round, as it were. I suppose
they're very worthy ideas and community spirited. And if anything came out of, funnily enough, we were talking about this in the first hour, the things that have kind of dropped by the wayside since lockdown, things that people took up and what have you. If anything great that did come out of the lockdown era, as it were, was perhaps a renewed sense of community for a lot of people where they lived, where they weren't heading off to London to go to work, or they weren't travelling 20 miles to go to work all day and then just coming home in the evenings and being around at the weekend. Sadly, I think that's kind of That's also kind of dropped a little bit by the wayside as well, because everybody's getting on with their busy lives. So if it's not going to come from a community spirit, as it were, how would you go about funding this? Because let's face it, money is very thin on the ground at whatever level you're at.
Well, that's precisely why I wrote the letter asking for an early discussion, because how do we fund this? What is the best way of keeping people safe and warm? That is why in the middle of August, in the middle of the heat wave, I thought we have to deal with this. It's really not good enough for Kent County Council to say we'll have it on an agenda on the 15th of September. That's kind of quite annoying when you think there's something like 18 million families, the equivalent of 45 million people, are going to be hit by this. The figures on this are actually staggering. 85% of pensioners are expected to fall into fuel poverty. More than 90% of lone parent families are going to fall into fuel poverty. It's going to be a massive hit. So people are going to want to do what they've always done, which is to support each other and look out for each other. But that's getting more and more difficult as more and more people are impacted. The scale of this could be very overwhelming, which is why I thought we needed an early discussion, early planning, and we need to give clear guidance to people. I can't bear the thought of thinking of any of my elderly residents here sat alone, shivering, not knowing where to go for help. And I'm afraid that might be the case.
So the 15th of September is the next meeting. What are you expecting to happen then? And if you don't get the response that perhaps you're looking for, what's your next move?
Well, I think Kent County Council have to lobby the government. I mean, it's the government that dish out the household support grant and, the other amounts of money that came through during the COVID period of time. I mean, I would like to see government taking action. I would like to see government doing more to apply a price cap, to raise again universal credit. Some of this it's outside of the scope of the Kent County Council. But having said that, I think Kent County Council could do more to represent the poorest, most hard-up people that it has living. And a lot of those people are concentrated in Thanet. So that's why I always use my voice to raise those issues, because they're fundamental for people. It's the difference between, a decent life and actually a kind of miserable life. And people have been through enough misery with COVID. They really don't need this, and they don't deserve it.
Karen, thanks very much for your time. That's the Labour County Councillor Ms Constantine for Ramsgate.
BBC Radio